As someone who works with over 100 people in person every single week to help them work on their quality of life, work on their mobility, and on their bodily capabilities, here are 5 exercises or 5 skills you will definitely regret not working on, especially once you reach the age of 40, with all of those except for one being probably things that you were already capable of doing, but over time neglected for whatever reason. While these exercises are not flashy, not impressive, not cool, they are definitely worth so much more than anything you could be doing at the gym if you're not already able to do those. With the first exercise on this list being the squat, but I'm not talking about this squat. No, I'm talking about this squat, the resting squat, the seated squat, the Asian squat, the Indian squat, whatever you want to call it. Only reason we consider this an exercise is because most people in developed countries have developed knee problems and hip problems and ankle problems, while 90% of the rest of the world still uses this as their most common resting position. Being able to rest in a deep squat is actually a pretty nice way of finding out where you are lacking mobility and where you will develop the most problems as you get older. Lack of squat ability could be stemming from a lack of ankle mobility, in which case your heels will be raised once you try to sit down. It could be for a lack of hip mobility or core strength, in which case you will be falling backwards as you try to sit down comfortably. Could also be due to a lack of knee mobility, in which case you might develop pain the lower you go into this position. So not only can you gauge all kinds of problems from your ability to squat or lack thereof, but the squat itself is such a base fundamental movement for humans, and many of the health problems that are connected to a lack of mobility can be dealt with if you can learn how to squat down deeply and how to sit in this position comfortably without requiring any sort of strength or balance, till you can use this position to work on more advanced exercises, of which we'll have a couple today. Which brings us to the next exercise, and this is more of a skill than an exercise per se. Your ability of getting off the ground without using your hands. And what's important to note here is that we're not just talking about an upright seated position on the floor. In general, you should be able to get up from the ground even from a laying position or from a semi-laying position. Doing so in different ways. Not only will this help you work on a lot of coordination and body control that will be very useful for you the older you become. It'll help you strengthen your body, work on your mobility, and help you string together more and more exercises the more advanced you become, starting your get-up journey with easy positions and then working your way up to getting out of more and more demanding situations until you have full control over your legs when it comes to strength and coordination, while adding all the necessary flexibility to these movements. Because you do not want to be the person who asks for help to get off the ground because they have zero control over their lower body or over their core musculature. Especially since old people nowadays barely have any friends, which means that you might not even have anyone to help you off the ground. So definitely learn how to do that, with our next skill being a tiny bit more demanding. That is our ability to bend in our hip, but more specifically our ability to bend in our spine, which means going through complete spinal flexion and complete spinal extension. And thankfully, starting to work on this ability is one of the easiest things you can do, because one of the most effective spinal mobility exercises is also one of the easiest ones to access, being the cat-cow switch, or the classic quadruped switch between spinal extension and spinal flexion, flexing your back musculature to push your stomach down and flexing your core musculature to push your back up. This will help you keep your spine safe through being able to go through a longer and longer range of motion and strengthening the surrounding musculature. Because injuries to the spine are super common, but they're also very dangerous, and avoiding that is the best way to go about it instead of recovering from these injuries. And speaking from the experience of having 1 or 2 discs pop out of my vertebrae, the road to recovery is a very painful one, so try and avoid this and start working on that as soon as you can. With the next skill we've had in our youth but sadly lost, being our crawling ability. Now, since we are grown-up adults who are bipedal. That doesn't mean that we can't get down and dirty on the ground, touch some grass and work on our crawling ability. Because crawling low to the ground can help us develop an insane amount of coordination, strength and flexibility, all in just a handful of movement patterns. And once you advance, there are a myriad of movement patterns more that you can add to your repertoire to become much stronger, much more flexible, much more coordinated, and in turn help you avoid injuries in the long run the older you become. That goes for lateral movements as well as frontal movements and backwards ones, of course, which will help you connect your upper body coordination to your lower body coordination, a skill that has been deteriorating in most people because they've been going to the gym, doing symmetrical exercises and isolation exercises and working their shoulders separately, their upper body separately, their lower body separately. And over time, they can barely coordinate their entire body into complete movement patterns that holistically target every single muscle group and every single joint, and crawling does that perfectly. Basically a must add to your fitness repertoire if you want to stay healthy and have a high quality of life the older you become. So touch some grass and do some monkey shenanigans until you are fully capable of doing this in your sleep. With our final skill being the only one that is a tad bit more advanced and not one of the basic human movement patterns that even a child can do, and that is the pull-up. Now, while we are talking about classic pull-ups, I'm of the opinion that the classic pull-up should just be a stepping stone for you to learn how to master pull-up form, which means that your pulling capabilities should include lateral movements or diagonal ones, as well as lateral movements at the top as well, or for instance, circular movements, taking your body through an ever-increasing range of motion into different directions and adding asymmetrical movement patterns to your upper body strength and coordination. This will in turn not only help you become stronger and develop maximum coordination for your upper body, but in the long run it will help you avoid all kinds of back, shoulder and arm related injuries. Not to mention that we are reclaiming one of the most important humanoid abilities ever, which is grip strength. Now, if you know anything about grip strength, for instance, the power grasp effect, you know that humans are basically made to hold on to things for very long periods of time without needing a break. That comes from our ancestry, and babies can do that for up to a complete minute. Now, if babies can do that for a whole minute, there's absolutely no excuse for you not being able to do that. So combining your pull-up capability with your grip strength capability is one of the things you should definitely be working on to keep your quality of life high as you grow older. And if you want to learn how you can advance step by step until pull-up mastery, you can check out this video where we go through it from the zero beginner level all the way up to the most difficult pull-up variations. So if you have time to take out of your day to work on anything, I would highly suggest it would be these 5 things. And if you can already do them, then that is absolutely amazing. But if you can't, I would highly suggest you prioritize them before anything else, because it will come back to bite you in the ass later on. And that is something I would definitely not enjoy seeing. So please take care of yourself, take care of your quality of life, and age as gracefully as you can by doing exactly what I showed you today. And if you like the video and join us on this channel, because we do stuff like that pretty much every single day, which means that I'll see you tomorrow. So until then, Captain Cairo, peace out.